This is another interesting edition of the Market Review, where we discuss key developments in the financial and capital market as it affects the economy. Today, we'll be discussing second half of the year 2022 outlook for the Nigerian capital market. And my guest is Mr. Wole Adeosun, the President of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers. It's great to have you on the program.
Thanks for having me, Otto.
Thank you.
Nice to be here.
Thank you very much. Before we begin, let us give you a wrap of some key stories from the market from last week. The Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange is set to be inaugurated this week, July 28th, that's Thursday, marking another turning point for the Nigerian commodities market ecosystem. Also last week, in a bid to modernize Nigeria's capital market and ensure that it's well positioned to support economic transformation driven by private sector investments, the Securities and Exchange Commission and the African Development Bank Group signed an agreement for a grant on market surveillance system project. With this, the bank is providing $460,000 worth of grants to finance technical assistance and capacity building for capital market development under the Nigeria Securities Market Surveillance System project. Also, according to ProShare second quarter 2022 Nigerian Capital Market Service report, the June capital market size by exchanges revealed the following. The Nigeria Exchange Limited led the capitalization with 50.15 trillion naira, accounting for 63% of the market, while the FMDQ Securities Exchange debt market size was 28.07 trillion naira, translating to 6% of the market. The NSD Exchange on the unlisted securities markets capitalization for the first time hit 1.04 trillion naira, still accounting for 1% of the market. Those were some of the key stories from last week. If you're joining the conversation, we're looking at second half of the year 2022 outlook for the Nigerian capital market, and my guest is Mr. Wole Adeosun, President for the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers of Nigeria. So, Mr. Wole, let's first begin with the need to increase the participation of retail investors in the Nigerian capital market. We currently have about 2 million captured in the market out of a population of over 200 million. So let's say approximately 1% of the population is captured in the capital market, which is very poor. From your perspective, what can be done to increase retail investor participation and appetite in the Nigerian capital market?
Okay, thank you, Otto, for that question, which has always been asked. Most times, whenever we have engagements with the capital market journalists, it is important for all key stakeholders, including government, market regulators, and others, to understand that this is one of the most apparent Nigerian economy at this time. Investors out of a population 200 million is not what we should be operating for an economy as big as the Nigerian market. The development and growth of any market-driven or capitalist-oriented economy is directly related to the level of development of the capital markets. That's why we say, look, the market is the barometer of the economy. The local retail investors that we have at barely 2 million base form the spine of the capital markets and by extension, the national economy. The level of stability of the capital market is substantially determined by the size of the local investor base, because foreign portfolio investment is very mobile and it is unpredictable. The foreign portfolio investors, they come in and just one or two variables changes in the economy, and then you see them taking off. For the past 2 going to 3 years now, we've seen the consistent decline in the volume of trades that we can attribute to the foreign investors. Our own position in the CIS is that a lot still needs to be done to increase retail participation in the Nigerian market. And until we get to that level whereby we have a lot of the retail investors in the Nigerian market participating, then we are not there at all. But fortunately, over the past 2 going to 3 years, the foreign investors have been declining gradually and significantly too in the last 1 or 2 years on account of various factors attributed to the Nigerian economy, the foreign exchange issues and the likes. The local investors have stepped up, particularly the high net worth investors the pension funds, they fill in the gap, at least somehow, though not fully, but they have sustained the market, and the market has remained very buoyant over the past period, because that gap created, the void created by the foreign investors, is being filled by the local investors. So, for example, an institution like the CIS, which carries out extensive capital market literacy campaign, we do a lot of this every year, trying to get more local investors be informed about the market, and for them to strike an interest, to generate an interest, to elicit an interest by these investors in the market. We've been doing it by ourselves. We are not funded by government, and we are the primary line that relates to these investors. We are not being funded by any government. No government grant, no financial aid. Only a few concerned private organizations extend support to the institute. So on the positive side, the new technology, positive side of generating and creating more interest, with the aid of new technology that we have introduced into the market, the new technology-driven market model is helping to galvanize retail investment seriously. For example, last year, when we had the MTN public share offer, which was available for subscription through the telephone apps that we all used, and this significantly increased. It attracted more investors to the market because of the ease of doing business, the ease of buying the shares, the ease of just getting things done by the Generation Z that we have now that are technology oriented. So we believe with more offerings coming into the market under that technology-driven platform, we'll be able to generate the Generation Z that are the hope of the market for the future. In the next 5-6 years, these are the people that will be earning some significant income and will be able to invest in the market because they are introduced to it right on time, early in their careers, and will be able to build on it. So we believe that the country needs to build on this by supporting institutions like CIS in the literacy drive and the stockbroking firms through easy access to trading liquidity in increased volume and keeping our cost of participation low for the retail investors. CIS as the body, the main institution certifying operators for the capital markets. We'll keep on doing this by making sure that we get people informed, intensify our literacy campaigns to get as much possible the population to be interested in the capital market and investing in it continuously. Thank you very much for that.
You talked about the MTN, that was a game changer. Now we have the federal government unveiling the new Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, transiting from a state-owned oil company to a commercially driven entity. And now this is a great opportunity to leverage the capital market by listing subsidiaries. We've seen what has happened with the Saudi Aramco that's in Saudi Arabia. We've seen what happened in Petrobras, Brazil, or even Equinor, that's the Norwegian state oil companies, leveraging the market. So how is the CIS driving the advocacy? Because we heard the Group Managing Director, Mr. Mele Kolokai, talk about an IPO much later, I think next year. So how are you going to drive the advocacy to see that the capital market is that first point of choice in terms of raising and doing an IPO and liberalizing and listing key subsidiaries, which will bring more governance and bring more people on board into the market, because a lot of Nigerians would like to be shareholders?
Okay. Well, from time, the CIS has been involved in continuous advocacy that the commanding acts of the economy, particularly the ones that the government has control of, the government should, to engender better corporate governance, list these companies in the market. So we've been advocating the listing of NNPC over the years. And this can be verified even from our last edition of the Nigerian Economic Review in January and the CIS National Workshop that we did in Abuja last year. We advocated this continuously, that the government should follow that line of that option and be able to extract better value from its continuous investments in the NNPC over the years. Listing the NNPC will be one of the greatest ways of bringing the dividends of democracy to the average Nigerian citizen, similar to the indigenization exercise of the 70s and the banking sector capitalization exercise of 2005 to 2007 that attracted significant number of investors into the capital markets. Consistently, we've been advocating for due process to be followed by government agencies. And in this case of NNPC, it provides a significant opportunity to turn things around. It provides a given opportunity, one, to have the shares of the NNPC listed on the exchange, on the trading exchanges in Nigeria. So when the shares are listed, it brings in further transparency. It provides a platform, even for market discovery. And then for the NNPC, in the new form that is adopting now as NNPC Limited, now you are going to have the shares not only listing it, an IPO is being contemplated. And with an IPO, the government will be able to raise significant amount of funds that can be the game changer for the NNPC. Government will be able to raise a lot of funds too, because government owns NNPC 100% now. And if you should sell part of it, just like Saudi Aramco did, you know how much money they were able to raise. So the NNPC will be able to raise a lot of money. And under a change management structure that is corporate governance focused, then we'll begin to derive better value. And the fact that the NNPC knows that now there will be investors that hold these shares, different from the way it used to be under the government, definitely there must be dividends that must be provided based on their transactions, based on their operations. The operations of an oil company is profitable. Ordinarily, it is just to put in the very best in there, and then you even derive much better value for the investors that will come on. With the NNPC shares being offered via the IPO plus the listing, then you can be sure that out of 200 million Nigerians, there is nobody that doesn't use a form of the product of the NNPC or the other, either in form of PMS, in form of diesel, in form of kero, in form of, all. So we are all consumers of the products of NNPC. So if we are able, once they list it, once they offer raise the IPO, then you will be sure that at least 25% of Nigerians should be taken on board as shareholders of NNPC. I believe 25%, reasonable, should be. Yes. So it will be a game changer, certainly. And that is one of the things that we'll be advocating. And there are other companies also that will fall under this kind of investment or reorientation, whereby the government will be able to extract value from the sales of his holding there, part of his holding, or even full holding, and be able to channel these funds into other areas, yearning for funding for infrastructure development.
Very, very important. So let's look at the second half of this year, developments that will shape the capital market. One of them, of course, I would like you to put a word to is the foreign exchange market. And then, of course, the other factors you see that will shape market activities second half of the year. What can be done to really unlock opportunities in the market?
Well, for the foreign exchange, it will be like a case of trying to assess the foreign exchange market in Nigeria and what can be done to address the challenges. The challenges of Nigerian foreign exchange market is enormous. You will know that the Naira has dropped consistently and has been dropping in value, in terms of value, from about 200 and something in the last, maybe about 10 years ago. And now officially we are talking about 429 to the dollar in the official market. Now, in the parallel markets,
over 600.
We are talking about 620, going to 640. In the last 1 or 2 days, about 640. Well, granted that this has been heightened by the political parties' primaries, in which the election was dollarized, and a lot of transactions were being done in dollars. That's increased the demand for dollar, sudden demand for dollar, and then the rates went up from what it used to be at 580. So, but the fact is that is the state of play of the market. We acknowledge the fact that the Central Bank of Nigeria has been taking some important steps to address the foreign exchange rate crisis in the country. A lot of manufacturers are unable to source foreign exchange to buy raw materials that they require for their factories, for their industries. So the foreign exchange is rationing, the central bank is rationing foreign exchange. However, the ultimate solution for Nigeria, because we are just too import dependent, virtually every sector is dependent on import, that even as basic as toothpick, you still have to import. And we have access to wood. We have access to other facilities that we need to use to produce some of these things that we are focused on importing virtually every time. So there is need for import substitution, the ultimate solution to address this challenge. Because over these years, we've been talking about problem with the foreign exchange. How come there has not been a solution? Because we are yet to be able to turn around the country from being import dependent onto being locally sourced. The ultimate solution is to return to the economic fundamentals. Nigeria has to work towards rebalancing the production-consumption cycle in favor of production more in the country. We consume more than we produce. We rely on importation for much of our needs. The population is increasing. We are not able to turn around and become local producers. The demand will keep on increasing and the foreign exchange situation will just remain persistent. So the capital market comes in. We have to create an environment that encourages more local enterprises to get listed on the capital market, to obtain relatively cheap long-term funds, long-term capital, and produce enough for local consumption and export. Our 2021 national workshop in Abuja was focused on achieving double-digit GDP growth for Nigeria. You can see the nexus between what the CIS is doing for this year's annual Stockbrokers conference and what I just said. All these things used to be developed in Nigeria before, in the 80s. In the early 90s, we used to have it, but we just suddenly turned around and then we focus essentially on importation, and that has been a bit. So in summary, the solution is to boost domestic production and rely less on imports. And the best way to achieve this is to develop the local content. And as you develop the local content, then you develop the local capital markets. Thank you.
Thank you. And then as we wrap up, Mr. Wole, it's a big one. 48 hours from now, you will be the investiture of your tenure. Already you're the president, but the formal investiture is going to happen 48 hours from today. So what should we be expecting? What are you bringing on board as the CIS president?
In CIS, we have seamless transition from one president to the other. So from that one president to the other, what we have is a continuum of operations. So the first thing is that my own team now in council will consolidate on the good work done by my predecessors, who will be called past presidents. We have a lot on the burner for the Institute. As the certifying body for capital markets in Nigeria, we will keep on working to ensure the prime position of securities and investments as one of the first options for Nigerian youth as a career of choice at the graduate level onwards. for us in this presidency, we'll be looking at a way of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers working alongside with other market stakeholders to ensure that Nigeria wins the competition with regards to the African Continental Free Trade Area as one of the prime destinations for direct and portfolio investments in the African continent. Yeah. We'll be looking at sustained advocacy drive on economic issues in Nigeria and policy formulation by the government, and we'll be bringing to fore the capital market viewpoint. The capital market viewpoint of the government making maximum use of the capital market to ensure development of infrastructure, which is key for the growth, economic growth in Nigeria. So there will be sustained advocacy with government, as we always do. When there are issues, we will bring forth the viewpoint of the CIS as the foremost capital market institute in Nigeria. We will also actively engage capital market regulators, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SROs, and other stakeholders on contemporary industry matters, like the capital gains tax that we have now, the development of the commodity exchanges, and also the trading of derivatives, which is new on the capital market now. My team in this presidency will pay particular attention to the areas of funding and exploring ways of generating sustainable funding to stabilize the institute finances. We'll also build on recent achievements such as the commencement of remote examinations last year and the establishment of CIS Academy that we had earlier this year. So those are some of the things that we need to do. And then also, above all, is the pursuance of the bill at the National Assembly for the reenactment of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers Act. So those are major issues that we have to work on in this presidency. And we are sure by those grades, we'll be able to achieve and even surpass even our own expectations as we go on.
Very interesting tenure. We'll be looking at a lot of developments, but I just wanted to say that for the CIS Act, we expect that there will be a lot of consultations and carrying other key stakeholders along to ensure that this act is very inclusive for the entire ecosystem. And also, it's nice to hear your plans for building capacity, increasing advocacy on economic policies, making the capital market at the core of developments in the economy. We hope to see much of that. And most importantly, we want to see more retail investors on the market. I hope that your tenure will build that literacy, learning, and improving the capacity of the market to get in more retail investors. So by the end of your tenure, we should see ×3 or ×5 of the current retail investor base of the market.
Certainly you have that. And our prayer is that a repeat of the kind of MTN that we had last year. If you should have like about 2, 3, 4, 5 of that in the course of the next 2 years, then you see the market significantly transformed. You could see the way the MTN is taking the market now, and it's really moving the market significantly. So we pray that we'll have seamless change of government next year, and there will be no disruption to the plan for the NNPC.
Yes, that will be under your watch too in the next elections. Hopefully, the next government continues to support development of the capital market. Thank you very much, Mr. Wole Adeosun, and congratulations on your investiture that's coming up 48 hours from today. And we look forward to interesting times in building capacity and development of the Nigerian capital market under your watch as the president of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers. Thank you once again for the time.
Thank you, Otto.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. That will be all for this edition of the Market Review. And of course, if you have questions, suggestions, or comments around the developments in the capital market, what you'd like to see in the new leadership of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers of Nigeria, please send them to Ottoabasi Abasiekong at proshare.co. That's the email address. Also, you can visit our website, www.proshare.co, to read the latest news stories and developments in the capital market. That's the leader when it comes to capital market coverage and reports. You can also engage us on our social media platforms displayed on the screen. Don't forget that you need to be informed to make the right investment decisions. Thank you for watching, and keep discussing the financial and capital markets because they create wealth and economic opportunities.